Customer came in with a ignition that key goes in and turns but stops, does not go the rest of the way. But if you hold down the steering lock, insert the key, then it turns all the way and starts. So the problem with this lock is that the clutch inside has worn out. So the lock needs to be replaced. There's no repair work. So what we're going to do is, we have a new lock here, but the customer wants the key, their existing key, to work, so we're going to recode it. It comes with a randomly coded key that will attach to their remote when we're done. To get this apart, we're going to need to drill 4 holes on the ignition exterior housing. We have an old lock here to line it up with, and we'll give you the measurements. Okay, so what we've done here to get to the ring that's inside to release the lock, we've measured out 4 places around the lock at 3/10 of an inch. Using a micrometer, it's going to be at 3/10 of an inch. So if you're holding the lock, it's just basically one here, and then flip the lock over, and we have the same marks. And that's because we have to push in on the ring to release the cylinder. So I drilled one hole already. I'll drill the other holes right now. You can feel where the pot metal ends and just stop the drill. Okay, before we can release the cylinder, this steel plate on the back has to be popped up. To do that, we're going to take a Dremel around the edges here. We don't want to take away too much material, but we'll show you. Okay, so to remove this back panel, we want to free it up a little bit. To do that, we'll take a pin punch, hammer it a couple times going this way, then we'll flip it over and get a grip on it here and punch it a couple times. The ideal is to loosen the plate up a little bit before we Dremel it. I have one that we've already Dremeled right here, and all we did was take the Dremel and take away a little of the material right here. 3 places, 1, 2, and then 3. And don't get happy with the Dremel, you just need a little bit, not a lot. And then once you do that, it should pop right up like that. It won't come all the way out because the cylinder is still holding it in place. On the side of the lock is a relocker. We need to pull it out during the disassembly and the reassembly and put it in last. And this is just a cap that holds in the relocker and a spring. So we're just going to center punch the side of it. Okay, we've removed the little cover off of here. You have to, special note, this cover is under spring pressure, not a lot, but it will go flying. We got the cover off. We tried getting it off with the automatic center punch on the side. That didn't seem to really do it, so we just took a pin punch, poked it on the side, and the cover went off. We're going to put it back on at the very end. But to finish getting the relocker out, we'll pull the spring off, and then we're just going to take a broken end file, which I'm sure many locksmiths have laying around, and we're just going to stick it in and pull out the relocker. Once again, we'll put it all back together at the very end for the relocker. Okay, to recap, before we pull the cylinder out, we've taken the relocker out of the side. We have the cover springed upward. We have our 4 holes going around the lock cylinder. There's actually a ring going around that we're going to depress in 4 places to bring the cylinder out. So it's not just going to be me, it's going to be 2 people to get this lock apart, because you need to force all 4 areas here down at the same time to get the cylinder out. Okay, to give you a visual of what it really takes to get this cylinder out, yes, what you see is 2 people with 4 pokey tools, for the lack of a better word, and basically you're putting pressure on that inner ring. And you can have even a 3rd person with the key in here, give it a little bit of a turn to help pull up on it, while you have the other 2 people pushing on the pin. And then the cylinder will pull up, you can let go, like that, and everything falls apart like I just showed you. The proper way for this to sit on here is like this. Okay, so we have the cylinder out. Now we're going to take it apart to recoat it. Pop off the C-clip in the back. Make sure it doesn't go flying. This comes right off like that. Inside the lock, there's another circular clip. We're just going to stick in our tool, free it up as we work it around. It's pretty simple. The ring comes out. Now the cylinder comes out with it. Face. And there's our tumblers right there. From here, we'll just put in the recoat the lock. ASP sells a keying kit for this, so we could use the tumblers out of there also. Okay, we're ready to, we've coated up the lock. Here's that ring that takes 2 people and 4 prongs to get apart. It's a pretty strong circular ring that goes on the outside of the lock. So now we're going to assemble it. Everything goes back in a certain order. So this usually falls out on you. If it didn't, that's good news. We're going to stick it back in and have it come all the way out. The back side, you're going to need to set up the timing with it to make sure that the back piece here with the little ward lines up when you put the cylinder in. The cylinder has a little lever on it. The lever sits just like that. So we know the lever, there we go, goes in and lines up this way, because we can see the slot. When you have this apart in your hand, you'll be able to see the slot right there. A little dark, I don't know if you can see it or not. But the lock goes in like this. So as long as you know which way the lock goes in, you can line this up in the correct position to get it together. So before you slide the cylinder all the way in, this has to be back in place. It doesn't have to be peened in by any means, but it needs to be back in place, because the lever that's on the side of the lock here slides through this opening here. If it's not there, this won't go back on. So we're just gonna, there's usually enough grease to hold it in place, so we're just gonna hold it with our finger like that, and then we're going to slide the cylinder in. And it's sometimes it doesn't go in right away, and you end up having to turn the key a little bit to get it to go in the rest of the way. Okay, we've slid the lock all the way in, and it's seated once again. The ring around the cylinder is now seated in the cutout groove going around the cylinder. The cap is on. All we need to do is pin it down again. And then the last thing to do is to put in the relocker with the relocker, the spring, and then the cap to cover it, which we'll pin back over. Then we're all done. Test the lock, give it back to your customer, or install it back in the car.